What's going on, guys? This is Chandler Smith, and today's video is insane. I've actually never seen anything like this, and that's because there was an apartment building that went up in flames. And unfortunately, it went up in flames while the tenant was in the building. Luckily, the tenant was able to get out, and in this video, we're going to take you on a walk through the building. We're going to show you what the fire did, all the damage that was caused. We're going to talk about how the owner feels going through this entire process. We're going to talk about the liability side of things and insurance and what you can do to make sure you're protected in situations like this. And the video is really going to give you a taste of what it's like to deal with an apartment going up in flames and all of the horrible things that are involved with a situation like this. I actually launched this video last week, and what I had done is I'd showed up to the property and we talked to the owner. He was feeling really good about things because he had insurance set up properly. We talked to the property management company. He was able to get everything in the right place. They were able to get the company in there to start refurbishing the entire place, ripping things out, eliminating the smoke for the other tenants, going through this entire painful, horrible, long, expensive process of cleaning up the apartment. But what happened when we got there is, well, a couple things. First off, for those of you that follow the channel, you know me and Garrett. We are very lighthearted people. We do whatever we can to find the positive, to make jokes, to joke around. Garrett especially is one of those people that, regardless of the circumstances, he's always going to find the positive. He's always going to have a smile on his face. And that's something that I love about Garrett. That's why me in my own life, I've had a very interesting year filled with trials and negative things. And Garrett's one of those people that I've loved to have around because he just always brings a positive light. He always brings a joke. He always brings something to lighten the mood and ease the tension. And that is one of his huge strengths. And I try to be the same way. I'm not quite as good as Garrett is, but I'm always trying to find the positive and make light of things, because I've just come to find that like dwelling on the negative side of things isn't really beneficial. Now, unfortunately, having a YouTube channel, because I am this way, I've portrayed things wrong in the past. I've done this with evictions. I've done this with other things that have happened in our apartments where tenants have vacated, damage, a myriad of other things. And I'm learning that when you are producing content for thousands and thousands of people, it's very important to make sure that you take into consideration everyone's perspective. And for me, I posted the video last week of just us walking through and us, really joking about the situation with the owner, because it was like, hey, like this is horrible, but it's okay because we've got insurance and it's all right. The one thing that I did poorly when we did this walkthrough of the property is I didn't really take into consideration the tenant situation and how terrible it is that this tenant had to deal with losing everything. Now, we didn't get a chance to interview the tenant, and I don't know. I guess what I want to say is I want to share this with you from a landlord perspective. However, I have taken out a lot of the walkthrough because after we went, I turned the video over to my media team. They went through, they edited it, they posted it. I watched it, and the first time I was like, it is what it is. Let's just post it. Like, it's a walkthrough of a property. We do these all the time. But then I saw a couple of the comments and I rewatched the video, and I had to kind of have a moment of reflection where I said, you know what? I need to be careful about the way that I look at these things, because from a landlord perspective, this landlord is going through a lot, but he had a very positive thought process on it as well, because he was insured and he was going to go through it. And yeah, it sucks. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of extra time. But as a landlord, the best thing to do is just say, you know what? It's all good. We'll get through it. Let's put on a smile. Let's make a joke about it, and let's move on. So that's how our conversations were in this unit. What I have since discovered is it's okay for us as landlords to talk that way, to stay positive, to get through it. And if you're a landlord struggling with things, just realize if you put the right systems in place, if you have insurance, it's something you got to just laugh about and move on, because it's bound to happen, and you're going to see that in the video. The one other thing you might see in the video, though, is I'm not super somber. I'm not depressed. I'm not viewing it in the way that I'm sure that the tenant is viewing it. And so I have cut out a lot of it from the original video, but I still wanted to put this video on there so that you as a landlord can see what happened and can get an opportunity to see how the landlord's dealing with it and what you can do to protect yourself in case a situation like this does happen. When it comes to someone that's living in a property that burns down, I will say we were also extremely grateful that nothing happened to the tenant. For us, that made it not as sad of a thing, but when you really do step back and look at the damage, it's really sad. Like, I really feel bad that so much of the property was destroyed, and I'm sure for the tenant this has been an extremely difficult thing on top of it being difficult for the landlord. As a landlord, your first thought is, you know, did anyone get hurt? And then it's like, okay, no one got hurt, we're good. How much is this going to cost me? And how do I deal with that? And what's my liability in this? And the list goes on and on. How do I deal with the other tenants? And so that's where my mind went, that's where the owner's mind went, and we tried to give it a positive spin, but again, I hope you understand watching this video that I probably should have done things different, taking into consideration that this was really hard for the tenant. So we've tried to edit it appropriately, and I hope you guys will be understanding. Also, with situations like this, I really would love feedback because I never know quite how to act. I am here to teach you how to deal with things as a landlord, and I love that you guys keep me straight and say, Chandler, there's another perspective in this. And so please, always feel free to let me know in the comments how I should address situations like this, because these things do happen, and I want this content to be there so that you as a landlord know what to do insurance-wise, you know what to do management-wise, you know what to do when this crap happens. But it also really sucks for the tenant. And I think that's also another part that needs to be talked about, because for this tenant, you know, if it was one of my tenants, I definitely think now looking big picture and said, hey, if I was in the shoes of this landlord, I think it's so important to connect with the tenant, make sure that they do have a place to stay, and, you know, honestly do what we can to help the tenant in these situations. And I think if you want to run business properly as a landlord, that does fall on you, and that's something that we didn't really address in this video that I should have, and that's why I'm addressing it now. So now that I've done this extremely long intro, we're gonna give you a full walkthrough of this property that ended up burning down and everything that is involved when it comes to dealing with this situation. What's going on, guys? This is Chandler Smith, and today is a sad day because this apartment went up in flames. So we're gonna show you, I guess, what happened to the apartment and what that means as far as getting it back up and ready to rent and everything else involved. So with all of that being said, let's jump into it. So for those of you that are new to the channel, this is an introduction to Luke Stallings. He actually manages properties here in Idaho Falls. He is an incredible property manager. He manages Garrett's properties. He does not yet manage my properties.
I like the yet.
Yet.
I like the yet.
No, my property manager is incredible, but I have told Luke any deals he brings me, I will let him manage them because he's also incredible.
So always the last, very, very last call you ever want to get. And we got this call early last Wednesday, I think it was, 7 o'clock in the morning. What happened was around 2-ish in the morning, according to the tenant, he woke up, he was sleeping in a recliner, there was flames all around him, he had a space heater in the room, and that's what he said. Unfortunately, the fire itself, a lot of smoke damage, it didn't actually get very far in the unit, but when the neighbors who were concerned that he was still inside broke down the door, the fire itself flashed, and when a fire flashes, you're basically feeding that fire with oxygen, and it pretty much blew up at that point, and so the fire got into all the other different parts of the property, and fire department went in, and in order to get the fire out and to make sure they don't have to come back in 3 more hours to make sure that the fire is, not burning in the attic, they pulled down the entire ceiling. They cut holes in the roof to vent the entire thing to make sure that the smoke's all out. So the brunt of the damage that you'll see was more from the fire department than it was from the fire. But yeah, I mean, it's all for the purposes of making sure that fire doesn't reignite. So he was sleeping in the recliner in the front bedroom right here, and there was flames all around him, so he jumped out the window. However...
He jumped out the window?
Yeah.
The inspector said that he had a heater next to his chair he's sleeping on with like 3 extension cords wrapped up, but they still not
So
sure.
the inspector could only find the extension cords, no remnants of the heater. But you'll see when you get in there, the fire department completely like, oh yeah.
All right, guys, we're gonna give you the full walkthrough tour, but first off, we gotta talk insurance. All right, guys, so one of the biggest questions is going to be, how does this pan out with insurance? What different kinds of insurance? Luckily for us, we've got a guy that deals with insurance on a daily basis. He's also the one handling the cleanup inside. So give us a rundown, good insurance, bad insurance, how this is gonna pan out.
So my name is Benson. I'm with Idaho Disaster Pros.
I could have included that, but Benson,
No
thanks for
worries.
being here.
No worries. That's why I got the name tag. So there's a couple things if you're owning rental properties that we run into a lot that kind of cause an issue for the landlord if you don't have it. So with your insurance, you want to make sure that you have replacement cost value coverage. So that's RCV coverage. There's two kinds of payments, two kinds of coverage, RCV and ACV. Actual cash value is the ACV. So basically what that means is if you have a property and there's damages, and let's say it's $100,000, ACV factors in depreciation. So if it's a 20-year-old, if the materials last for 20 years and you're 10 years into it, they'll depreciate those materials and only pay you a minimal amount compared to the whole cost of the repair. Replacement cost value automatically puts you at 100% and covers the entire replacement cost of the home.
Definitely. And the other thing to keep in mind with this, one, don't be cheap with insurance. That's the one thing. It's just not worth it with rental properties, like nickeling and diming over and getting the cheaper one, because when stuff like this happens, you will regret it. The other thing that we talked about is making sure that your renters, you require renters insurance so that their stuff is covered, because unfortunately this renter didn't have renters insurance, and that means everything that was destroyed, there's no insurance to cover that. And it does fall back on them, but it's always nice as a landlord if you can get the renter to have the renter's insurance, so you're not like, oh, like, what do I do? Because technically it's not your responsibility, but yeah. Holy cow.
Do we have, do you have a flashlight
Very
at all?
smoky.
Do we have any lights in the trucks?
Dude, look at that. No burn.
Every fire job I've ever done.
The smell is not good.
No, it's strong.
It's
I can
bad.
even smell it out on the.
Yeah.
So the problem with it is, to talk about property management side of things real quick. Obviously, when this caught on fire and the fire department showed up, and they were here very quick, all 3 units were displaced fairly quickly. The neighbors to the side here were fortunate enough to be put in a hotel, and then the bottom 2 were fortunate enough to have family or friends nearby that they were able to stay with. But our goal on the property management side of things is not only to make sure that this unit obviously gets put back into shape fairly quickly, but it's going to take a while. But the priority is to get those people back into their units as soon as possible. However, the smoke permeates through these walls fairly easily, and so this unit here had some smoke intrusion over there, and the unit below us, because when they came in to put the fire out, they sprayed some water, and so obviously that water went into their units. So we're in the process of getting both these units cleaned up and put back into the best position, back into the original condition as soon as possible, so that we can get all 3 of those tenants back into place as soon as we can. And then simultaneous to that, continue to work on this. So this could be a 3 to 5 month process getting this. Basically, they have to take everything out, strip it down to the bare minimum, the studs, and then put it all back together. So, the one thing too, not that this really matters much, but the fire was in the bedroom behind this wall. This, for the most part, as you can see, is, the fire flashes across the ceiling, and that's why anything below this is still.
That's crazy. It's weird how fire works.
Yeah, it was hot enough to melt the thermostat.
Yeah, look at that, James. That's nuts. Oh man, it smells so bad in here.
I told you not to wear the nice shoes.
I know, man. I didn't think things through. Darn it.
So when the fire department comes to put everything out, the power company also comes, and they will actually not only turn the power off, but they will also take the meters off.
Oh, interesting.
So where it's a 4-plex and all 4 units have their own meters, they'll take the meters off. So there's no chance that anybody can turn the power back on.
Because that would start another fire.
Could, potentially. So then.
So what are you doing so you don't end up with frozen pipes?
So Benson, I called Benson, he was the first person I called. He was my lifeline, my only lifeline that morning. So immediately we get the plumber over here and we winterize the property because we don't know if the power is going to get turned back on very quickly or not. So we winterize the property. Plumber was able to get here fairly quickly to do that. And once they winterize the property, simultaneous to that, try to work it out to get our electrician and then the city electrical inspector over here, all in they were here the same day?
Had it on the same day.
Yeah, same day. So that by that afternoon, we had the electrician, the inspector, had the power back onto these 3 units, the meters back on, and that allowed us to kick the heat up, turn the fridges back on, and start the process of, like we weren't able to get them back in quite yet because we had to clean them, but at least the units were preserved so that we didn't have any problems. Because Benson referred to it as secondary damage, and you could easily, with temperatures getting down into 0 degrees last week, freeze up 3 more units and have flooding.
A nightmare.
It'd be horrible.
Yeah, it'd have been bad.
My question for you is, when you got the call, what were like the range of emotions you went through?
One, it was shock, and then the second thing is, like, this is going to sound trite, but was anybody hurt?
Yeah.
And as you guys discussed, I think no one was hurt. So, and then you start thinking about damage after that.
Yeah.
And then the third thing I talked to Luke is like, well, I got insurance, and that's what it's for.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because there's definitely different levels of worry with situations like this.
Right.
And that would be my same thought. Is it's like, I think one of my biggest fears is I don't want something to happen to someone in one of my properties.
Right.
Because after that, like, you're pretty protected with insurance and the way that everything's structured.
Right.
But that's one thing that, I don't know, I'm sure, because you've done this for...
I've had apartments for about 25 years now.
And through that time, probably never experienced something like this.
Never had a fire for sure, and thank goodness I've never had anybody fall down steps or, and get hurt and that kind of stuff as well. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I've been lucky or...
Or just living right?
Well,
Doing things right.
Well, it's, and a buddy of mine had apartments too, and this is, we want to have present a good product for people, and, so that means keeping up with the maintenance, and if the maintenance is good, then you avoid those kind of things.
Yeah,
And
no.
So, but yeah, it was kind of bizarre, and I was out of town too. I was down south, and so I just got back yesterday.
Oh, man.
To check it out. So sitting a week and
Stewing on it.
right. Luke sent me, because you can see how dark it is. He sent me a video of it. Of course, you couldn't see anything except paint, peeling off the ceiling and stuff. And so,
Yeah.
So
Man. Well, I think it's interesting because a lot of times on our videos, we have situations like I've had people run into a building from the road, like one that wasn't even our tenant. We've had weird situations, and a lot of people are like, why are you so just like whatever about it?
Right.
But I think people forget, the insurance side of things and how, like, we definitely don't want to treat this lightly. I think we'd be viewing this a lot differently if someone was injured or something else. But
Sure.
At the end of the day, it's like you'll pay your deductible, but it sounds like you were even able to get rent covered in the interim, at least for a portion.
Yeah, and I don't know how long that is going to last.
Yeah.
But I think I'll be made whole to some degree. Obviously there's out-of-pocket expenses. I'm imagining. So, but it's it's the cost of doing business as well, and so. But it's like I said, the main thing is I don't want people to get hurt. And it sounds kind of cliche, when you say that, but that's the truth. And, little kids or whatever. So.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing too. I'm sure it's like, did the tenant get hurt, and then did the other tenants, are they okay? Did they have any issues? And
Right,
it
well-
sounds like even them, even though they've been displaced, everything was okay. So
Well, one of the couples that live here, they got a 1-year-old. I don't even think their daughter's 1 year old. So it's like, what happened with them, So it's not like the 1-year-old's getting up and running around and to evacuate. So it just adds a whole nother wrinkle to it,
Right.
So,
Well, thank you so much for letting us come and walk
sure.
through. And it's one of those things that I am very grateful I'm learning secondhand what would need to be done. Not to rub that in, but it's like,
Right.
I'm glad I'm not going through that process, but also I'm glad that you've done things right so that it's not as painful as it could be.
Right. Well, you got a lot more units, I think, than I do. So.
Yeah, I hope I don't have to deal with one of these, but it's like you said, it's part of doing business. You just have weird stuff happen.
Yeah, and then, you know, you do it long enough, it's like you drive a car long enough, you're going to get in an accident.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. That's something I was thinking of as I was driving back up here from Phoenix, you know. I was like, yeah, it's about going to happen at some point.
Just part of it. Well, and for me, every day we get more and more. I don't know if you know much, but I have a sales force of sales reps out knocking doors.
Right.
And then I have the units, and it's like there's so many people that I am somehow involved in, and it's like you just have more worries, you have more stresses, you have more, because the more interactions you've got going on, the more risk there is of something happening.
Right, yeah. I have no employees, so that's the good thing.
That's nice. Yeah. All right, guys, in a lot of my properties, I have ceiling heat, and I've talked about it in other videos, but a lot of times ceiling heat can be frustrating because it goes out and it doesn't work, and you've got issues, then you've got to add a cadet or another form of heat. But I've never actually seen it. In my mind, it was always different than this, but if you check it out, these are, and what would you even call those, Luke? Just wires? Yeah, just a wire that warms up.
So people oftentimes will move into the area and they have no idea what ceiling cable is. If they're moving from a warmer climate, for example, anywhere from, I would say, probably back in the East Coast where ceiling cable probably wasn't that popular of a thing, people don't know what it is. And so you
tell them it's incredible, and then they see their electrical bill, and they're like, Luke.
So I always just tell them it's like a heating blanket in the ceiling, and as you can see, a heating blanket is just like this. You have wires that run through the whole thing. This one was done above and beyond because I'm pretty sure that most of the time they'll just plaster over the top of it. Fire inspector said that this floor was made out of concrete, which I'm not sure how that is done. But anyways,
really
built very, 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 very well.
Well, we've got a major issue. They recruited Garrett to help with the pool table. They didn't ask me. I don't know if it's because I look small or what. Here's the problem I see, is there's one requirement to work in this job, and you don't meet the criteria.
A beard?
Yeah,
I noticed that
Look
too.
at all these beards.
I got a mustache.
Everybody else
We're
has
not
got
that far off. Let's go. Okay, be careful, Lily. Nails.
1, 2, 3.
There's the tip.
Coming.
1, 2. There we go.
2 more steps. 1 more step.
Oh!
1, 2, 3.
That's easy money.
Everybody ready? Okay, push yourself forward. 1, 2, 3. Now. Perfect. Push yourself.
Let's get out of there.
Okay, you guys.
Golden.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I also hope you understand that, I don't know, this sucks. It really does. But there is something to be said for always finding the positive in situations and trying to put a positive spin on it. And if you're going to be a landlord, that skill set will serve you well. If you're going to be a business owner, that skill set will serve you well. If you're going to be a YouTuber trying to make a joke out of everything or turn it into a positive, it's just not real. And I'm going to do a better job in the future of, I don't know, trying to paint things in a light that takes into consideration all perspectives. And I hope you guys understand that my end goal is never to offend, to hurt feelings, and to not be empathetic, even though sometimes I am not empathetic because I'm trying to create content for you as the landlord and I need to be better. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I'd love your feedback on the video in the comments, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the future videos. It'd mean the world if you remember to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the little bell, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.